All right, good morning, folks. Thank you for joining us today for our training on the new outcome-based payment model for supported employment. Hello, my name is Lydia Beals. I am a training and quality assurance specialist here in the Office of Community Living at the Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing. Later in our presentation today, you'll also hear from Adam Tucker and Jenny Jordan. These folks both work in the Office of Community Living in the benefits section, and they are subject matter experts for all things related to supported employment. As I stated earlier, you've joined a Zoom webinar. So your cameras are off, your microphones are muted. There's no need to put your name into the chat. We do have an attendance report for agencies for this meeting. Again, this is a training for case management and case managers. We will have other trainings on supported employment for providers, and feel free to reach out to us if you have questions about that. If you are not a case manager and somehow you ended up here. We do have our Q&A open in our Zoom webinar today. The Q&A is where you can submit any questions you have for the department for this policy-focused training. There is a thumbs up that also shows in that Q&A. So if somebody puts in a question, you read that question and you have a similar question, or you like that question and want to know the answer, feel free to hit that thumbs up button. At the end of our training, we'll have time for questions. Yesterday, we didn't have any live questions, so we went through that Q&A and we, based on those thumbs up, decided what questions we were going to answer. So feel free to take a look at that throughout the training. Please know that we do want you guys to submit any questions that come up for you in the training into that Q&A. We may not be able to answer all of your questions live, but we do plan to create a frequently asked questions document for you guys shortly after this training, and then we'll get that posted onto the HCPF website as well. It's important to know throughout our training today that we're going to have a few live polls and knowledge checks. So we do want to make sure that everyone on the call understands how to select the React button down at the bottom of your screen. It has a heart on it. When you select that button, you'll see some emojis come up. You can also select the three dots to look for additional emojis. Today, you guys are going to be using the thumbs up, the thumbs down, a rabbit, a tiger, and a whale for some of our knowledge checks today. So please take a look at those reactions now and select something to identify how you're feeling about starting our supported employment training today. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate seeing those emojis. We'll go ahead and get started. So the new model of supported employment that we're training on today aligns with our HCPF mission in three ways. First, it improves member access to supported employment services. Second, employment leads members to better health outcomes and a pathway out of poverty. Third, this new model will ensure the right amount of support is provided to members, which will lead to cost savings and program stability. We wanted to give you guys a quick look at our agenda today. We are going to be talking about employment first, individual supported employment, case management connection, Division of Vocational Rehabilitation or DVR and their role and their referral process, outcome-based payment model, which is our new payment model for supported employment. We'll be talking about the differences in job development, job coaching, workplace assistance, and our new milestone payments. Then we'll also be talking about the case manager's role and the implementation timeline for these changes. I do see that someone has their hand raised. Please feel free to put any questions you guys might have into that Q&A and we will respond to it as we can. We wanted to do a quick poll at the beginning. So we want to ask folks on the call, do you have members with supported employment services now? If yes, give us that thumbs up. If no, give us that thumbs down. We just want to take a quick pulse check on what kind of knowledge you guys have about supported employment currently. Thank you everyone for those emojis. All right, and then we're going to ask you the second question. Are you comfortable referring members to the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation? Give us a yes thumbs up or a no thumbs down. Seeing a mix of emojis today, which is great to see. So some of you are familiar with that DVR referral process, and maybe some are not or not feeling comfortable with that. We will make sure to cover some information about DVR today, which will hopefully make things easier for you to get through that process. I want to make sure and talk to you guys about some of the details of our supported employment case management training plan. So just to kind of focus for people today on what we're doing, today's training is on policy and the supported employment outcome-based model changes being implemented by the department. We're also going to be inviting you guys in August to a systems training, and that training for supported employment will be focused on how you enter supported employment information into the bridge system and into the care and case management system. And in September, we also plan to hold open office hours for case managers. So we'll be talking about our implementation timeline later. But essentially, you guys will be working on this change starting September 1st. And so we'll be having some office hours in September to allow for questions and answers with the department once you guys are into the work with your members and their teams. Before we get started with the training, we wanted to go through a quick supported employment success story for you guys to give you an idea on some of the impacts your support with supported employment can give your members and their teams and their families out there in the community. So this is a personal story from me today. In the early 2000s, I was a direct care support professional working in the Four Corners area for a provider agency. I met a young man on the HCBS SLS waiver who was working on finding a long-term job. He enjoyed being physically active and having opportunities to socialize with his community. Him and his mom lived about 20 minutes outside of town, so it was hard for him to get to town to meet folks. I started working with him as a job coach. He worked as a grocery bagger at City Market, and he also worked at the Fort Lewis College cafeteria. This member and his mom were very focused on trying to find him a long-term job that he could do for his adult life and kind of stabilize his life and then work on transitioning into the community to live independently. Eventually, while working with him, he applied for work at Walmart and he was hired as a courtesy clerk to handle carts and other duties as assigned. Walmart worked with this member and his service provider to get him trained in his new role. Once the member had experience and familiarity with his new workplace and the managers in the building, his service provider was able to begin fading their supports. When I moved out of this area, this young man continued to work at Walmart. 20 years later, one of my sons was going to college at Fort Lewis, and I was able to visit that same town and discovered that this member continues to work at Walmart today. He reports that he still enjoys his job and he hasn't needed any supports from his providers in many years. This member has been able to maintain his employment working with natural and workplace supports built into his work environment. He was excited to tell me about his long-standing career with this company and what he continues to enjoy about his work. The job at Walmart helped this member to gain valuable life skills. This led to him moving to town, living in an apartment on his own, and he seemed very happy when I ran into him, and it was so exciting to see him at Walmart. So thank you for hearing my story. I hope that you all can connect with that and think about members you have and the impacts that supported employment could have on their lives as well. Now I'm going to pass it over to Adam Tucker to talk to you about employment first.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. My name is Adam Tucker, and I'm the Supported Employment Policy Advisor for the Office of Community Living. I've been working with HICPA for about 12 years. And prior to that, I was a case manager. I first started my career down in the Four Corners area, kind of the same area Lydia was just talking about, but on the New Mexico side. And I worked mainly with the DD waiver and on the Zuni and the Navajo reservations. After that, I moved up to Montana and worked specifically with folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities who were also dealing with persistent mental health disorders, as well as folks who are experiencing homelessness. So really excited to be here today. I'm a huge believer in employment. And where we kind of want to start off with everything today is with employment first and kind of what that philosophy is. And it really is the impetus behind this change, this pretty significant change in how we are administering these new services. Really exciting changes. So employment first really is the idea that all people are capable of that full participation in employment, specifically competitive integrated employment. And that really means that there are jobs with real wages, and that all people, no matter what disability have that right to work in a job that they choose that matches their skills and interests. And one kind of point beyond that is that it's also the responsibility of public service systems like Medicaid or the waivers to also create systems that give people the support and the services they need to be successful in work. So what is this idea of competitive integrated employment? CIE really means working in a real job for real pay alongside other members of the community. These are the same kind of jobs you and I have. These are the ones where we have the possibility of advancements. We have access to benefits and opportunities, same as everyone else. That we are employed in that typical community workplace where we work alongside a diverse group of individuals. And so competitive integrated employment is really key to this. And these supports and services that we're changing around are really intended to support people with finding and being successful in competitive integrated employment. So one of the things that I know as an ex-case manager, Jenny knows, who's also going to be presenting today, and all of you guys know that we run into some of these myths and barriers and that people have with them as they're trying to explore or thinking about options around employment. And so just want to kind of hit a few of those. One of the big ones we always hear is that if I'm making income, I'm going to lose my Social Security or my Medicaid benefits. And we have benefits counseling as one of the services as part of both the DD and SLS waiver, as well as state SLS, which can really support members in exploring how income is going to affect both Medicaid and Social Security, as well as being able to introduce them to programs and different options around those services and supports that can lead them to being able to actually earn more income and really explore that pathway out of poverty. The next one is I'll never be able to work on my own. We have a lot of examples of members with much different severity of disability who never thought that they could be independent, and through the support and the work around that these services and supports actually offer, that is many people find independence far beyond what they initially thought. I don't have transportation to work. Please make sure that you guys know that non-medical transportation can be used to support people to get to work and to come home from work. And that when people are working with DVR has some different options for transportation as well. And then I have never worked, so no one will hire me. Well, we've all kind of been in that same situation, right? And really what it's about kind of identifying what you're interested in, what your skills and talents are, and then really kind of focusing in on the types of jobs that can lead to, but also being very, thoughtful and thinking outside the box when it comes to what type of jobs that should be explored, especially in the different communities that we have throughout the state of Colorado. So supported employment, kind of what is that? We want to make sure that you guys kind of have the basics around this. And so, supported employment, the purpose around that is supported employment service really are meant to support members in obtaining and maintaining that competitive integrated employment with the goals of, really ensuring that members are exploring their independence, ownership over their employment, and that they have this long-term kind of success. Again, the preferred outcome is that competitive integrated employment, which is really, really important. And it's really important that we start to think about making sure that the right services at the right amount are part of the overall philosophy around this, again, to promote the members' independence, which leads to more job success, as well as the member really being able to own and be part of the community that is offered through employment. So we have kind of an umbrella, right, within the waivers, and I'm sure many of you are very aware of this. We have both group supported employment and individualized supported employment. By definition, group supported employment does not support competitive integrated employment. And so today, and these changes that we're talking about today are much more focused on individualized supported employment and really trying to make that system usable both for members and providers so that members have better access and can work through in finding competitive integrated employment. So what are kind of these different components though, right? What is job development? What's job coaching? And we always kind of hear about this workplace assistance. So that job development really is the before the job. Can we slow down, really start to learn about the member and the member learning about themselves from that employment standpoint? What are their interests? What are they good at? What are those conditions that need to be thought about that will lead to better success, better independence from once the member moves into actually working? And then that job coaching really is that ongoing support while the member is working to ensure that they're mastering their skills. They're identifying who some of those natural supports are, who also maybe need an ADA accommodation. All of those different types of things are kind of wrapped into that job coaching role to really support the member and not only being successful at work, not only gaining more income through increased hours at work, but also that fading and making sure that the member is becoming as independent and as much of a part of that support that employment community as possible. And then workplace assistants are for those individuals who have that safety concern in the community. They know their job, they know what's going on, but that they need someone there to support them due to their disability. So what are we talking about here? What is this outcome-based payment model that you guys may have heard about and that we're talking about today? And so really one of the big things that as we look at traditional fee-for-service systems where we're only paying for services with 15-minute increments and really have no defined outcomes, what we really start to see is that our current system creates a financial barrier for providers to really be able to actually use that fading out, right? Because if they're not giving a direct service or they're not supporting the member in some way through that, they're also not able to reimburse. So that creates this idea of fading out becomes much more difficult. That fee for service also does not really support providers with adopting and utilizing those best practices that we know work in supported employment. And because there's no financial incentives around supporting members to find jobs where fading is actually possible. Again, the independence for that member is sacrificed for the larger idea around supported employment. So how this translates in Colorado is that we see job coaching remaining at 100%, which also translates to the member having limited work hours, because not only is it based on when their employer needs them, but it's also based upon when that job coach is available, which then leads to more people being kind of stuck in group supported employment and not really being able to go and really explore what their options are around a competitive integrated employment. So with the new, what's changing is, and this is the exciting part, right? So instead of things like job development being a 15-minute unit, we're moving towards a flat rate around that. And we're tying that payment to career profiles and different things like that. These are the best practices that lead to members really being able to explore and being successful with community-based employment. Job coaching no longer is going to be based on purely on that direct or indirect support. It's going to be based on the idea that we are investing in the member and we're investing in them being successful and independent within their employment setting. And so that fading is more possible through our new kind of payment model and different things like that, which we'll get into further on. And then finally, we're going to have milestone payments that promote member longevity in the workplace, that promote providers to implementing national best practices that lead to all of the goals that we hope and that we are really striving for when it comes to employment first, which is members being successful in employment that is community based and is integrated as much as possible. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Jenny and talk to you guys in a little while.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jenny Jordan, and I'm excited to be with you today. As Lydia shared, Adam and I oversee supported employment services. This is very near and dear to me. When I started my career in the field, I did supported employment work in rural Wyoming and then in the Denver metro area. And I also have a soft spot for case managers and the work that you all do day in and day out. Prior to coming to HCPF, I worked for a case management agency for 16 years. I worked in various roles, including as a case manager supervisor, the agency's trainer. I conducted quality assurance for both providers and case managers. I oversaw provider relations. I just want to say, I know that as case managers, you're expected to know a lot about a lot of different things. You're balancing requirements and deadlines and documentation, coordination, and all the needs of the members that you support. So before we get into the details of what's changing with supported employment, I wanted to start by grounding us in why your role matters so much. Next slide, please. And the reality is you make a difference. You make a difference in people's lives every day. You help members identify needs, connect them with resources, help them access quality services. And I want to specifically call out the powerful role you can play in a person's life when it comes to employment. You may be the first person to encourage a member even to consider employment. Some people may have never even been asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or what kind of work would be meaningful to you? You may be the person who opens that door. You may be the person who connects them to vocational services or helps them take that next step towards employment or towards career advancement. And related to this training, you may also be the first person to explain what's changing about supported employment and why. So you are really in an important position. We know that, and our goal today is to help support you in that role. Next slide. So the purpose of this training is to help you understand the new supported employment process, especially as it relates to the outcome-based payment model. We want you to feel more confident in talking with members about employment services, whether it's at the annual service plan meeting and monitoring, or just through questions that come up along the way. We also want to help clarify the DVR referral process and what coordination with the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation may look like. Another goal is to help you identify the correct supported employment service because some of the services are being added, some are changing. We want to make sure that members get connected to the right service for where they are at in their employment journey. And the good news is that we have developed some new tools and documentation to support this process. These are intended to help case managers and providers speak the same language, stay on the same page, have clear expectations, and more communication than maybe we had in the past. And most importantly, The goal is to support members in obtaining and sustaining meaningful employment, including achieving goals that they may not have even considered possible for themselves before. Next slide. All right, so we're going to stay kind of at a broad high level at first. We will touch on the regular workflow for supported employment services, and then we're going to get into the specifics of the supported employment outcome-based payment model. And then we will wrap up by touching on some of the practical elements that relate to your work as case managers. So before we get into some of the specific process changes, just want to orient us to this overall kind of workflow. This workflow is going to be our roadmap for the supported employment process. We're going to refer back to it throughout the training to show kind of where we're at in the overall sequence and the pieces you as the case managers touch. It's not intended to show every step or every detail. It's just going to be kind of our guide to help connect each part of the training back to the larger process. Next slide, please. Okay, so now that we have kind of that overall roadmap in mind, we're going to start by looking more closely at one of the essential partners to this process, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, or DVR. So DVR is the state entity that supports people with disabilities of all kinds in preparing for, finding, and maintaining employment. DVR can support members in a variety of ways, depending on the person's employment goals and what they need to move towards that goal. So that could include things like employment-related assessments or job development. It could be training, education, or other supports that help the member pursue work. For members receiving supported employment services, DVR is especially important because DVR is generally the funding source for the job development phase. And that means DVR helps cover the services focused on finding a job. So things like exploring job options, connecting with employers, completing applications, preparing for interviews, and just working towards a good job match. So in practice, a lot of that work that's done on the day-to-day will be completed by the supported employment provider, but DVR is still a required partner in the process, and their role needs to be documented and coordinated. Next slide, please. Right, so as promised, we're coming back to that supported employment workflow. So after a member expresses interest in employment, one of the first required steps is that a referral to DVR be completed. So we're going to take a deeper dive to touch on why the DVR referral matters and what the case manager's role is in making sure that that step has happened and how that step influences the HCBS supported employment services as well. Next slide. So, as you know, Medicaid is the payer of last resort, and as such, we need to show that we are connecting the member with other available resources before covering things by Medicaid. DVR is an important resource because DVR essentially is the employment expert in supporting people with disabilities to prepare for, find, and be successful in employment. So before HCBS supported employment services can be authorized, we need to verify that a referral to DVR has been made. Now, this does not mean that the case manager has to personally complete every DVR referral. The referral can be made by the member or with support from a service provider, a family member, residential staff, or other person. The key point is that you as a case manager verify and document the referral before authorizing HCBS supported employment services. One important thing to note is different case management agencies and DVR offices already have their own established processes for completing these referrals. We're not trying to change those existing processes, so please continue to follow your agency or regional process. Make sure you know what that process is. And as a side note, if your agency currently doesn't have a process and you would like help connecting with your local DVR office to establish one, please let us know. We would be happy to help connect you help you forge relationships and processes as needed. Okay, so for documentation, this referral can be documented using any verifiable record showing that the referral was made. So for example, that could be a timestamped email that was sent to the local DVR office, or a response from DVR confirming that the referral was received. So once you have that documentation, it should be uploaded into the member's file in the CCM. The outcome-based payment model, to be clear, does not change the current DVR referral process. The main point is that when a member wants to pursue employment, the case manager confirms that the DVR referral has been made, documented, and then that helps connect the member. And then kind of that's your role is helping connect the member to the appropriate next step. So this requirement applies even if DVR is operating under an order of selection process or waiting list. And we'll talk about that in the next few slides. The case manager may still authorize appropriate HCBS supported employment services while the member is on the DVR waiting list. Next slide, please. Right, so I want to come back to the workflow and focus on what the process generally looks like when DVR services are engaged. So the typical sequence is that once the DVR referral is completed, after the member says, I want to work, HCBS supported employment services can be used while DVR completes intake and eligibility. Once that member has a formal employment goal with DVR, the DVR counselor may authorize services to help the member move towards employment that matches that goal. As mentioned before, DVR can cover more than we can through HCBS supported employment. So there is an advantage to the member to access DVR, as well as it helps us ensure that we're staying within that federal compliance as it relates to Medicaid being the payer of last resort. So the way we can show that flow. So DVR will support the member in finding the job. Once that member has obtained employment and has reached job stability, DVR may move towards closing the case. DVR services are generally short-term in nature. So members who may need a longer-term support at work, that's where the HCBS job coaching comes into play. As a reminder, these HCBS job coaching services are available to members enrolled in the DD and SLS waivers and in the State SLS Program. So HCBS job coaching can be authorized to support ongoing job retention once that DVR case is closed. This part of the workflow shows the sequencing between kind of DVR services and the HCBS supported employment. So you'll see kind of the green box here, which calls out an important exception. So if a member finds a job before DVR has authorized services, those HCBS job coaching services may be utilized. This includes where a member might have a job, but not need employment services, and then something happens and that causes them to want to have some additional support at work. So in these specific cases, you would not need to do a DVR referral because they already have a job, and DVR's main focus is in obtaining employment. The other reason that this matters is because DVR is currently operating under an order of selection, again, which is essentially a wait list. The DVR referral must still be completed even when they are on that order of selection. That keeps us in alignment with the requirements that we have. It helps preserve the member's place in line for DVR services. And if the referral is delayed until DVR is no longer operating under order of selection, the member essentially is going to be behind everybody else who had a referral that was submitted earlier. So let's break this down in plain terms. So what this means is that while a member is waiting for DVR services, so once that DVR referral is confirmed, the member is waiting for DVR services, you can authorize the appropriate HCBS supported employment service based on where the member is in their employment journey. If the member is looking for work, wants a new job, wants to change jobs, you would authorize HCBS job development services. If the member already has a job and needs support to maintain that job, or if they found a job before DVR services began, you would authorize the HCBS job coaching. So kind of the quick key question here is, are they still looking for the right job, or did they already find work and need support on that job? That answer helps determine which of the HCBS supported employment services is appropriate for that person. Let's go to the next slide. So if DVR later becomes available, the main point is to kind of reassess where that member is at in their employment journey at that time. So if they are stable and satisfied in the job, the HCBS supported employment can continue. If they still need DVR's employment support because they're not employed, they're not yet stable in the job, they need additional training or are seeking a different employment arrangement, then DVR should be engaged. In that situation, DVR can provide kind of the broader employment support connected to job development and stabilization. And so because they're getting it through DVR, you would end the HCBS supported employment service while DVR is serving the member. Once DVR eventually closes the case, the transition works the same way as we discussed earlier. HCBS job coaching can be added back to the service plan after the DVR case is closed if that member needs ongoing support to maintain employment. Okay, so that's kind of a bit on DVR. Sure, again, as a reminder, if you've got questions about it, put it in that Q&A. We'll see what we can get through at the end. But for now, we're going to shift to the job development. So one thing just to call out with this is that the outcome-based payment model does not change what DVR does or what DVR can provide. This is just going to be an HCBS services kind of impact. Next slide, please. All right, coming back to the workflow. So this is where you will see a change for case managers. In terms of in the past or currently, you've been authorizing job development as a service. Under the new model, the HCBS job development services you will authorize are the career profile service and, when needed, the supplemental career profile service. So, and you may not have heard those terms before, that's okay. We're going to walk through what each service is, when it's used, and what you should expect from the provider. Next slide. So the career profile service and the supplemental career profile service both fall under the umbrella of HCBS job development. And these are like the specific services that you will authorize. The career profile service helps identify the member's strengths, interests, employment goals, potential employers, and the conditions that may help them be successful at work. Meanwhile, the supplemental career profile service is used when the member needs a deeper level of employment planning. It may explore additional supports, experiences, opportunities, and outlining kind of next steps for employment exploration. The related profile documentation is going to be completed by the HCBS supported employment provider with the member. And as Adam mentioned, kind of both of these services are going to be reimbursed at a flat rate once that required employment profile packet components are completed. Next slide, please. And actually, before we get into the documents themselves, I do want to note that these tools are still going through the clearance process. We don't have the final versions to share at the time of this training, but we do expect them to be ready for public access kind of within a month. So Today, we're just going to focus on what the documents are intended to do, how they fit into the service, and what case managers should generally expect once they are available. Okay, but we're going to start by looking at that career profile as a concept first. So the career profile is the base document for both the career profile service and for the supplemental career profile service. So you can think of this as the primary employment planning document. It gathers information about the member's strengths, interests, past experiences, and employment preferences. It can also include input from people who know the member well. And the purpose is to start building a clear picture of what the member may want from a job and where kind of job development should begin. Next slide, please. We also have the workplace success profile. It is a separate document, and it is also required for both the career profile service and the supplemental career profile service. And this is where the provider is going to take a closer look at what might help the member be successful at work. So unlike the career profile document, the workplace assistance profile is not meant to be completed in its entirety. Rather, it has dedicated sections that focus on particular domains like communication, technology, transportation, physical and sensory access, and work support, which touches on factors such as executive functioning and handling feedback. For the career profile service, the provider is going to complete the career profile document plus 3 components. Now, those components will usually be sections of that workplace success profile, and a resume can count as one of those components if that makes sense for the member. For the supplemental career profile service, the provider completes everything that's required for the career profile service, plus 3 additional components. And for that supplemental career profile service, the list of possible components also includes person-centered thinking documents and an employment exploration plan. Next slide. Okay, so now that we've talked about the career profile document and the workplace success profile, let's bring kind of the pieces together. So for the career profile service, the employment profile packet is going to include the career profile document and 3 additional components. For the supplemental career profile service, the provider is going to build on what was already completed, and that may mean updating the career profile, completing additional workplace success profile sections. It could be adding or updating a resume, using person-centered thinking tools, and completing an employment exploration plan. So one of the main things to know is that this is designed to be flexible. Not every member needs every section completed. The goal is for the member and their support professional to focus on the pieces that are most meaningful for that member and where they are in their employment journey. So the career profile service is the starting point, and the supplemental career profile service is available when someone needs some additional exploration, updated information, or more planning before moving forward in employment. Next slide, please. So we're going to just walk through a scenario. So you can imagine Lucinda's on your caseload, and she recently graduated from high school. She wants to find a job, and she's enrolled in the SLS waiver, and she's not sure what she wants to do for work. So take just a brief moment to consider for yourself, what are some steps that you could take as her case manager? All right, next slide, please. All right, so in playing this out as a scenario, as her case manager, you connect her with DVR and a supported employment provider. You authorize the career profile service. And after about 6 weeks or so, you get a copy of that career profile and save it to her CCM member record. And while you're scanning through that employment profile packet that you received, you learn that Lucinda is an artist and that she would be interested in working with children. And those may be facts about her that you didn't know before. All right, Lydia, I think I'm going to turn it over to you for some knowledge checks.
Thank you, Jenny. All right, so we've talked a little bit about DVR and we've talked about job development, and we wanted to check in with you guys about what you're hearing about those topics. So our first question is, do members on the HCBS DD and HCBS SLS waivers or State SLS Program have to have a referral to DVR prior to case managers authorizing job development and career profile services? Is it tiger? Is it rabbit? Is it whale? You guys are pretty fast, so I won't read the answers to you out loud. I appreciate the answers I'm seeing coming in. Thank you for thinking about our question. If you selected rabbit, you are correct. We want to remind you guys that Colorado continues to use sequencing of service approach with DVR. Case managers should confirm that a referral has been made to DVR before authorizing HCBS individual supported employment services. While DVR is operating under order of selection, members may access HCBS supported employment services while waiting for DVR services to begin. Thanks for participating. We have one more knowledge check for you for this section. A provider submits an employment profile packet. The packet contains the career profile and the transportation section of the workplace success profile. What additional information should the case manager generally expect before considering the career profile service successfully delivered? Is it tiger, 2 other sections of the workplace success profile? Is it rabbit, the member's resume and a list of employers they want to send it to? Is it whale, documentation that the member has already applied for jobs? Seeing some emojis come in. Thank you guys. Lots of tigers, and that is correct. Case managers should expect the complete employment profile packet created through the career profile process, including any additional documents completed to support employment planning and identify employment opportunities. Thanks everybody for picking up on those emojis. I'm going to pass it back to Adam to talk to you guys about job coaching next.
Everybody, so one of the big things and one of the large changes in the philosophy shift really is also really showing up in the job coaching section. And so we're really excited to share this with you guys so that can really understand kind of where this is coming from. So really the first thing is that we're talking about once there's job stabilization or when the member starts home and community-based job coaching over DVR, and then the member would transition and work through some different job coaching phases, which I'm going to get through. One point that I do want to point out is that with the DVR referral, we only need documentation that the referral was made, and that if the member at any point finds a job before DVR has authorized services, we can move directly into home and community-based job coaching. And really, we only need those referrals when a member is looking for a new job. So if someone is already employed, somebody's been employed and they're transitioning into this new system, there doesn't need to be a DVR referral for that. But anybody who's going to go and look for a new job or is starting their career journey, that's when that DVR profile is, or that DVR connection is needed. So really one of the big things and one of the national best practices is really surround this idea of fading support and really ensuring that the member has as much independence within that job as possible, while also maintaining and supporting the member in being successful in that job for the longevity of it. And so members are most successful when that right level of support is maintained and is also faded as as they're learning more about that they're getting new natural supports in place, they're mastering those job tasks, all of those different pieces. That doesn't mean that fading is kind of a 100% thing, right? It doesn't mean that I'm fading as a job coach, that I'm fading everything back. I'm going to fade where the member has shown and is able to be more independent, while I may maintain that more of a direct service kind of relationship with the member about different, job different job aspects. So if that means that a member needs more support with a staff meeting, that's fine. But at the same time, when they're out doing their job, they've learned and mastered a lot of those tasks, and that job coach or that direct support is not needed as much. And so really the goal with fading is to really make sure that we're building that independence as well as the confidence in the job, so that the member has the greatest possibility of really becoming more independent and more integrated within that supported employee or within that job community. All right, so here it is. So job coaching phases. So right now we don't have phases, and we're switching to phases. The idea really is that this supports providers as well as really promotes the idea of fading. So we have 3 different phases, and that first phase is initial job retention, and that starts day 1 of home and community-based job coaching and lasts through 90 days. It's really important also to recognize too that the way that the member, the provider are going to be communicating with each other and with you is through a new tool that we've created. Again, that is going through clearance right now and will be available soon, but is the job support and fading plan. That document or that packet is something that the job coach and the member will work through, and really works through to identify what kind of supports that the member can expect and how to actually utilize those supports. That job coaching and fading plan will come to you guys and will be continuously updated throughout this. And we hope that it's a tool not just to document and to put into the member's case file, but also something that you guys may want to review as you're looking at monitoring this service, because it will give you a really good deep dive into exactly what the expectations are for the job coach and what kind of services and supports the member needs. So initial job coaching retention, that ends 90 days after home and community-based job coaching is started. And then we move into extended job coaching, which lasts from day 91 all the way through 18 months. The cool thing about these first 2 phases is that we are reimbursing the provider not on how many hours or units they're using for direct service or indirect service. We are reimbursing based off of the amount of hours the member is actually working. The idea behind that is that if we're investing in and we are supporting the member in not only maintaining hours, but also increasing hours, while also embedded in that is supporting this idea of fading, so that the providers can actually use their resources to support more people while also maintaining support for the individual. And then after that 18 months, we're moving right into job coaching maintenance. This can continue for as long as that member has that job. And what this is just a flat monthly rate. So even on a par, this would be parred out at 12 units. So a flat monthly rate, and that is reimbursed to the provider anytime that the member has received a wage or a paycheck in that month. So that's the really kind of exciting, very different kind of thinking around what home and community-based services are and how they can work. But we also recognize that things happen. And so if people are in that job coaching maintenance and there is something that changed, they get a new boss, maybe they get a bunch of new job tasks, maybe they even got sick and were out for a little while. We want to be able to have some flexibility with that for some temporary increase in really supporting that member and getting back to that stability within their job, so that that longevity and that full-on career kind of idea can keep moving forward. And so with that, if somebody is in that job coaching and runs into one of those situations, they can work with their job coach to update that job support and fading plan, and then come and talk with you guys to actually move back to extended job coaching. And you guys can approve that for up to 30 days per that service plan year. We also recognize there's going to be some other times where that may need to happen for 60 or 90 days. And so if it goes beyond 30 days, we just ask that you guys reach out to us at the department to really kind of make sure that we fully understand what's going on so that some approvals can continue. All right, so cool little member scenario. One of the things too is that so Lucinda has found that job in teaching preschool. She loves when she gets to make art with everybody, but she's going to need some job coaching services. What are some of those steps that you guys as a case manager should be kind of thinking through, and how can you really make sure that you're supporting Lucinda? So as that case manager, as the case manager, you are one who's going to authorize that initial job retention, and date span that to 90 days. On that same par, you can also automatically include extended job coaching, but make sure that on the par, that date span starts 90 days after the initial job retention phase is there. But by doing both of those things, one, it's cutting down on the need for revisions or anything like that, and really kind of just streamlines this process. I would, though, ask that as case managers, you're just keeping an eye out that around day 90, day 91, somewhere in there, that you're also going to get an updated job support and fading plan, and that also needs to be included into the member's record. One thing that I do want to mention as well is that as we're going through this transition, seeing some questions about folks who already have jobs. If somebody is working right now, they're using supported employment, they are going to transition at the CSR, and at their CSR, they will transition into the job coaching phase that is equivalent for how long that they've worked. So if somebody's been working for 3 years, they're gonna transition at their CSR into job coaching maintenance. So that is kind of the basics of this job coaching. We're really excited about that, and I'm going to kick it over to Lydia to do some knowledge checks.
Thanks, Adam. We are seeing a lot of great questions in that Q&A. We appreciate you guys putting your thoughts there. We just want to check in about what we learned about job coaching. So Andrea has been working in the same job for 3 years and is beginning her service planning process with her case manager. Which phase of job coaching should Andrea transition into? I'm seeing some whales, which would be job coaching maintenance. We also have initial job retention and extended job coaching up there, but those whales are very solid. It is job coaching maintenance. Since Andrea has been working in her job for more than 19 months, she would transition directly to the job coaching maintenance phase. During the transition from the legacy model to the outcome-based model, members who are already employed will transition into the appropriate job coaching phase based on the length of time they have been in their current job. Thanks for participating. We got one more for you. We're talking about Hal here. Hal has been working in the same job for 3 years, and he is currently receiving job coaching maintenance. Recently, he experienced a major medical issue and has been away from work for 2 months. As he prepares to return to work, the provider believes he will temporarily need increased on-site support. As the case manager, what can you do to support Hal? Tiger means nothing. The member's only eligible for job coaching maintenance. Rabbit, we have Explore Workplace Assistance as the appropriate service. And then whales, after receiving an updated job support and fading plan from the provider, the case manager can authorize up to 30 additional days of extended job coaching once per plan year. I am seeing whales out there. I think we also saw some Q&A questions about this, so hopefully this knowledge check will help answer some of your questions. And now I'm going to pass it back to Adam.
Thank you, Lydia. All right, so where does workplace assistance as this service that we've mentioned before, where does that fit in? And so workplace assistance now really fits in with that job coaching maintenance aspect, and should be explored specifically for folks who even if they understand their job and they know their job well, they need there's some kind of community safety concern, or there's something going on with a physical disability that really makes it so that they need that ongoing support. They need that ongoing supervision over time. The goal with this really is to make sure that the right and specific services are being used. And so we would ask, and this is already on our HCPF supported employment website, but to actually use our workplace assistance tool. And I'll get into that a little bit into the next one. One of the things that I always like to point out, especially when it comes to behavioral kind of challenges that some of our members have, and looking at supervision, is that we should not always take supervision for all of the other settings. We should separate that from what it looks like in an employment setting. I personally worked with a member down in New Mexico for many years. He was 2-on-1 awake at night staffing. He was not allowed to live with anybody because he had offended some of his roommates in the past. But his goals were he wanted to be more independent. He wanted to find more friends, and ultimately he would like to have roommates again. And so what we did as a team is that we helped him and supported him in getting a job at TJ Maxx, but as a stalker after hours. And what we realized as he was working there was that he is going to be in a locked building, that the only way he can exit that building is with somebody else unlocking a door for him, and that he was not around folks that he was at risk of offending. And so what we were able to do was to utilize that as a way to fade out some of these supports and services. And through that, he also gained a bunch of friends at work. He started going on fishing trips by himself without staff being there, and really worked. And what the team actually realized through this process was anytime that he had offended someone, it was because he was a victim of a crime within 48 hours of that. And so by identifying that and by identifying those triggers for him, it became his world really started to open back up. And many years after I left and was not working with him anymore, he was actually able to move in with some roommates and really having a much more fulfilling life. And so I just mentioned that as you as case managers are working through the puzzles that we encounter with folks, that sometimes employment is actually one of those places that you can really start to explore other options for individuals. So with the service delivery, we want to really make sure that this is happening during job coaching maintenance, that it's provided on a one-to-one basis. That is the idea behind this, that if somebody needs this level of support, that is happening one-on-one. Also, that this does not actually have to mean, again, that somebody needs, if they're working 8-hour shifts, they need this for 8 hours. It may be that somebody needs support every morning to get their workstation set up for their switches and different things like that. And that is completely okay to make a plan around that. And that's not you making the plan. That is the workplace assistant and the member making that plan, that, hey, I just need you to show up for the first 2 hours in the morning so that I can get set up with my workstation and make sure things are moving and being used correctly. And that is a completely appropriate way to use workplace assistance. So, member scenario. Aaron has been successful in his job as a computer programmer and is preparing to transition into the job coaching maintenance phase. However, he and his job coach are concerned that job coaching maintenance alone will not provide the ongoing hand-on support he needs due to a physical disability. Outside of the physical support need, Aaron is independent in performing his job duties. So as a case manager, what's a good way to kind of think through this? And it can get tricky, but one of the things is to discuss with Aaron and his job coach, determine whether are there other natural supports that could be developed that could even decrease the need for paid staff even more? If not, then utilizing that workplace assistance authorization tool that I mentioned earlier and is already on our website should be utilized to kind of identify the actual need that Aaron has, to make sure he's getting the right support when he needs it. One thing I do want to mention that's not necessarily on one of the slides is that if somebody is in job coaching maintenance and they need workplace assistance, you as the case manager need to stop job coaching maintenance and transition fully into workplace assistance. Those two things cannot be billed at the same time. It's either one or the other. And so if that tool indicates that workplace assistance is good, you guys would go in and authorize that service and also stop job coaching maintenance at that time. Now, I think I'm kicking it back to Lydia for some more knowledge checks.
Thank you, Adam. There we go. Oh, so we got Trent. Trent has been working successfully in his job and is preparing to transition to job coaching maintenance. However, there is a concern about a behavioral community safety issue, and both Trent and his job coach believe the support needed may not be adequately covered under job coaching maintenance. As the case manager, what support can you offer? Is it Tiger? The member is only eligible for job coaching maintenance, so the provider would need to manage the situation. I see that there's a rabbit choice, but you guys have already moved on to Wales, which is explore whether workplace assistance is appropriate, and if warranted, authorize workplace assistance to address the ongoing community safety concern. Thanks, guys, for all the Wales. That's right. Case managers can help members to understand and access workplace assistance services to address additional physical or behavioral supports so members can be successful in their jobs. Thanks, everybody. Back to Adam.
Awesome. All right, this is my last section. So the other and really brand new thing that we have within this new model is this idea of milestone payments. These are payments that will go to providers for their investment of time and resources in making sure that the member is successful. These promote longevity and implementation of best practice. We have a total of 3 milestone payments. These are all occurring right now, how we have them set up is they're all occurring during the job coaching phases. So what are they? So what are these 3? So the first one and the second one are pretty simple to understand. It's when the member reaches 12 months on the job, there's a milestone payment that can be authorized. And when a member reaches 2 years on the job, again, that is another milestone that can be authorized for reimbursement for the providers. The really kind of intricate or nuanced piece around this is that that 12-month and that 2-year milestone payments really are based on when the member started their job, not when they started home and community-based job coaching services. We're not expecting you guys to go and get a bunch of documentation for that or anything like that. This is just something that just should be noted under the demographics page in the CCM under the employment piece. And it's just when you guys hear that they've gotten a job, just ask them, hey, when did you start your job? Or ask the job coach, when did you start your job? And then just document that date, and that will help you line up for these milestone payments. Finally, the training with intent. The idea behind training with intent is that we're trying to promote providers into implementing national best practices and also ensuring that those job coaches, especially brand new job coaches that are working directly with members, are getting some type of community mentorship on how to actually implement and utilize those best practices. This one is designed for the provider to be eligible 90 days after the home and community-based job coaching starts. So it's a little bit different than the first 2 milestones, but it's important to know those 2 differences. We're currently creating a tool that is specifically for you guys that will actually, you put in some dates and it will actually pop out when providers will be eligible for these different milestones. And even at the CSR, if you see that there's going to be a milestone that is going to that the provider may be eligible for down the road, it is fine to put that on the PAR right away. Again, these are not required by providers to seek. These are voluntary, additional stretch kind of goals that we are expecting providers to want to go and try to work towards. And so it is not a requirement that they get these milestone payments, but we're hoping that it is something that can really support the member in their longevity, and with providers really understanding national best practices. So with training with intent, just really quickly, what this means for the provider to be eligible for this is that the supervisor of the supported employment program has an ACRE or a CESP certification. These are national certifications that are really based in national supported employment best practice. What that allows that manager to do is to be able to document and certify that the job coach has met these different levels as they're working through that first 12 months on the job. That includes making sure that the job coach is really understands some of the different ACRE domains. That's where the national best practices are kind of written up, and that they're getting that community that community mentorship on how to implement these. Each after 3 months, you would want it, the job coaches, and then the next step would have to be, this is what they have to accomplish by 6 months, by 9 months, and by 12 months. One thing that's really important to kind of know about this and the nuance within this is that if that job coach is working with 3 different members, and each time one of those members hits that 90-day mark after the start of home and community-based job coaching, that provider is eligible for a milestone for each one of those members, as long as that job coach is meeting these different steps throughout the year. All right, I'm kicking it back to you, Lydia.
Thanks, Adam. All right, so we have 2 more knowledge checks for you here. What is the date used to determine both the 1 year and the 24 months on the job milestone payment to the provider agency? Is it Tiger, 90 days from the date of HCBS job coaching? Is it Rabbit, the date when the member starts their job? I'm seeing quite a few rabbits out there. Rabbits are correct. The supported employment outcome-based model uses the date when the member starts their job to determine when a milestone payment can be billed. And then a second question, what is the start date that determines when the provider is eligible for the training with intent milestone? Again, we have similar answers here. Is it Tiger, 90 days from the start of HCBS or state-funded job coaching? Or is it Rabbit, the date when the member starts their job? I'm seeing lots of confident Tigers this time, and that is correct. 90 days from the start of HCBS job coaching is the correct answer. All right, I'm going to kick it back to Adam.
Awesome. Thank you, Lydia. This is my last slide, and then I'm kicking it to Jenny. So we really want to make sure that what's staying the same and a little bit of what's changing after kind of all of this. I mean, I know this is a lot of information, but what's really staying the same is that DVR referral process. That has not changed. That is something that because it is a federal mandate and because DVR has a lot of resources, that is something that's always been required anytime someone is either starting their career journey or they're looking for a new job. This case management service planning tools and role has not changed. We're not asking you guys to do anything more than you are now within the service planning process, and making sure that documentation is just included in the members' service plan and in their file. Again, competitive integrated employment has always been the preferred outcome. And then you guys as case managers continue to authorize services and monitoring outcomes. We really are depending on providers to do the heavy lift behind this and to make sure that they are following the best practices. We really are expecting you guys just to monitor exactly the same way that you are now. But hopefully you guys will have a little bit more information through some of these new tools that will help you in your monitoring process. But we're not asking you to do much more than that. What's changing, of course, is the career profile. Then also that supplemental career profile, the job coaching phases, and how that can support and better support providers and members with that fading process and independence. the milestone payments, and then all of this is tied to kind of outcome-based payments to really tied to these outcomes, the idea of investing in the member and investing in the member's long-term support or long-term success in the job. So with that, thank you guys so much for being with us today. And we're moving into some of our last sections, and Jenny's going to take over from here. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so now that we've talked through what's involved with the outcome-based payment model for supported employment services, I want to bring it back to your role as case managers. This last section is meant to help pull together the pieces that give you some practical language, reference points that you can use when talking with members and families, providers. So as Adam said, we know we covered a lot of information. The goal is not for you to walk away having every technical detail memorized by any means. The goal is for you to kind of understand the big picture, know what your role is, and then can feel prepared to start having some conversations with folks. So the next slide, please. So let's just pause for a moment to consider what the case manager's role entails. So case managers will continue to support employment conversations, confirm the DVR referral, connect members to providers, authorize services, monitor outcomes, and coordinate with DVR and providers. Just as important, there are some things that you are not expected to do. You are not expected to complete the career profiles. You're not expected to provide job coaching or deliver supported employment services. You're also not expected to be the DVR counselor. Like, they will still be playing their role in the person's life. And a lot of the direct work, as Adam said, is going to be the responsibility of that supported employment provider. Your role is to make sure that the member is connected to the right service, that the required steps like that DVR referral for new, like finding a job, folks, are documented, and that the service plan reflects the member's current employment needs. One aspect that we are hoping is that you as case managers will consistently be getting updates about the member's employment journey. That's kind of baked in. We're going to have those employment providers creating information and sending it to you. So you might be more plugged in with this than you had been in the past. And in learning about their progress in employment, you can celebrate with them. So even though there are new services and new names, the core of your role is still familiar. Support the member, coordinate the process, and help ensure that the right services are in place. Next slide, please. So I'm sure you're wondering, when is all this happening and how is it going to impact my caseload? So the implementation timeline that we are working towards begins September 1st of 2026. The important thing to know is that we are not transitioning every member all at once. This will be more of a year-long transition, and in general, it will be tied to the member's continued stay review or CSR. So for members with service plan meetings that are held after September 1st, their services should transition to the new model as part of that CSR process. For members with certification spans that start on September 1st of 2026, where you guys may already be working on those service plans, you can continue to enter the existing supported employment services. So do what you're service planning as you've been doing it. What we will be asking is that those members are brought into alignment with the new model through kind of a revision at like an upcoming monitoring visit. For members who didn't previously have supported employment services, or if they're new members and they want to add supported employment after September 1st, they would use the new services. So I want to call out an important nuance specifically for members whose annual service plan meetings you may be holding in, say, late July or August. We are working on system changes now, and once those changes are in production, the system is expected to only allow the new outcome-based payment services to be added to service plans going forward. So for case managers holding service plan meetings in July or August, it may be helpful to think ahead about when the service lines are likely to actually be entered in the system. If you are expecting the service plans will be entered before the system change, the existing supported employment services can be entered, and the member would move through to the new model with a revision in conjunction with an upcoming monitoring visit. If you expect that the service plan will not be entered until after the system change, it may be helpful to explain to the team that the new services are expected to apply for that upcoming certification span. So this is mostly a planning consideration, again, for kind of late July and August service planning. Our best guess at this point is that that production date in the system will be around August 26th to 27th. This is a lot, and that is exactly why we are here. We want to do policy stuff now, and we're going to hold a separate system training closer to implementation. That training will focus on how to enter that supported employment services in the bridge and the CCM impacts. And we should know more about kind of the exact dates and impacts. So main takeaway is that we are not doing an all-at-once switch for every current member. Members will generally move into the new model through the CSR process. New enrollments will use the new services, and we'll provide kind of more system guidance before implementation. We are looking that everybody will be kind of transitioned by September 1st of 2027. So we'll be making that shift, but trying to stagger things out kind of throughout that year. So in the meantime, though, it will be helpful to start talking with members who currently receive supported employment about these upcoming changes. Next slide, please. Right. So I know that timeline had a lot to digest. There's a lot there. The next few slides are meant to be quick reference points that you can use when talking with members and their teams, starting with job development. So simple message is that HCBS job development is shifting. Instead of authorizing job development the way that you may have in the past, case managers will authorize the new career profile service, and when needed, the new supplemental career profile service. The career profile service is an outcome-based service. The provider is going to develop an employment profile packet, and the member receives personalized employment planning resources that can help guide their job development. The supplemental career profile service is also new, and it builds on the career profile and can expand or refresh that employment profile packet when the member needs additional planning or updated information. So again, you don't have to explain every detail. Kind of a simple way to say it is that the new model is designed to make employment planning more personalized and more connected to the member's goals and next steps. Let's go to the next slide. So let's take a look at what this would look like for a member who is currently receiving job development services. So at the time of the member's CSR, if they are currently using job development, they would transition to the career profile service. So in this example, Fred has already been working with his provider to identify strengths and interests under the new model. That work would move to the career profile service. You could then expect to receive an employment profile packet for Fred. And this is hopefully going to help Fred and his provider to have more focus and direction in finding Fred a job. Next slide. All right, so similarly, this one explains kind of those shifts in the job coaching services and the new milestone payments. Previously, there was a single job coaching service with no distinction between levels. Under the new model, job coaching is organized into 3 phases so that the support can better match where the member is at in their employment journey. As the member learns the job, builds skills, and becomes more independent, the type and level of support may change. The job support fading plan helps guide that ongoing support. Milestone payments are new. They're intended to recognize the important employment achievements for the member and the investment in qualified supported employment professionals. Again, you do not need to explain every technical detail. The simple message is that the new model is designed to provide the right level of support at the right time as the member progresses in employment. Next slide. So let's walk through what this transition will look like for a member, for those members who have a job. At the time of the member's CSR, members will transition to the appropriate job coaching phase based on how long they have already been using that HCBS job coaching. So let's say in this example, for John, we can assume that maybe he started working at an auto mechanic shop about 6 months ago, and he has been using that HCBS job coaching for 6 months. At his CSR, you would add extended job coaching to his service plan, and John would continue to get the level of support that he needs at his job. In Julie's example, we'll say she's been working at Hobby Lobby for over 3 years, and thus she has accessed the HCBS job coaching for 3 years. At her CSR, she would transition to that job coaching maintenance. The main point is that the transition is based on where the member already is in their job coaching timeline. This avoids treating everyone as if they were starting over when they may be well into their employment support process. Next slide. All right, so I know when change happens, members and teams are going to be quick to ask, why is this happening? And what does this mean for me? So here are some examples of framing that you could use. So you don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to use this word for word either. It's just meant to be a reference point that you can use. The bigger message is that Colorado is updating the supported employment services to help members find, keep, and succeed in meaningful employment while they're still receiving the supports that they need. Members may notice new service names, new planning tools, or changes in how supports are described. And you can reassure them that the purpose is for those changes is to better match services to where they're at in their employment journey. And they should continue to receive the support that they need when they need it. So it is important to keep the conversations focused on the member's experience. So what is working well? What challenges are they facing? What support helps them be successful at work? Those things will kind of drive what they need. And then you as the case manager can be in tune to what it is that they need. Next slide. So we know this is new and different, and we are creating several tools to specifically support case managers. So that's going to include a service planning supported employment calculator, where you can literally punch in when's the person's start date, what's the person's service plans, what is their projected hours, and it will map out kind of the units you will need and also the dates span for that and for the different phases of job coaching. We also are adding a supported employment dropdown for activity logs / case notes when they come, and the documents center in the CCM. So it should be easier to find those documents or references. We will also have some specific employment reports in the CCM, and we're creating some talking points for service plan meetings. Additionally, there will be documents generated by supported employment providers, including an employment detail recaps. So that's going to share where does the member work, how long have they been there, what are their wages, kind of how many average hours are they working, as well as those supported employment providers are also going to be tracking those milestone payments and be providing documentation to you, so you can see kind of exactly what is coming through, what their situation is. Kind of the intent is to make this easier to manage and practice, so you're not trying to track everything manually or interpret the new model kind of without these tools to support you. So again, we will get these out potentially in phases as they're ready, but just know that we're thinking of you as we're moving into this. In that vein, let's go to the next slide. So you're not expected to navigate these changes alone. Adam and I are available for support. We are also going to be conducting provider-specific training. Our goal is to have a consistent message to everyone involved. As Lydia mentioned, we will be hosting additional case manager system-specific training in mid-August as we get closer to system launch. We are going to be developing workflows and job coaching phase tools, and we'll have FAQs. We plan to host office hours, and we're going to be there to provide support as you're going through. It's like this all is being implemented. Again, we know this is a lot of information. We don't expect you to memorize it all today. The slides and the recording will be posted on our website, and we'll be building out kind of the tools and supports as implementation gets closer. So the next slide, we're just going to do a quick one more knowledge check for you. So the goal of supported employment outcome-based model is to provide the right support at the right time to members during their employment journey. It's a true or false? All right, seeing a lot of thumbs up. Yep, you're absolutely right. Like, that is the intention. Our hope is that, so it's true. Members, our hope is that they will get the necessary support at work based on their needs and in consideration with where they are at in their employment journey. So another true false question: is it the CM's responsibility to explain all aspects of the supported employment outcome-based payment model in great detail at all service plan meetings? All right, seeing thumbs down there. So that's correct. That is false. You do not need to explain all aspects, but we are relying on you to talk to members about employment and get them connected to the appropriate service and providers who can assist them. And remember, it's important for members to understand how these changes support their employment journey and their job success. Next slide. All right, as we wrap up, I want to reinforce that your role has not changed in the sense of who you are to members. There will be some new service names, some new tools, new documentation, but your role is to still help members consider and pursue meaningful employment, to get connected to the right supports, and move forward in their employment goals. After this training, one action step for you is to begin talking with members and their teams during service planning meetings about the upcoming shifts in supported employment services. Again, you do not need to explain it every detail, but you can start by helping members understand that there will be shifts in supported employment services, and that the goal is to better support their employment journey, and that more tools and guidance will be available. We will also hopefully see you again for the systems training, focused on how to enter things into the bridge and the CCM related to what we've been talking about today. And just in closing, thank you for the work that you do every day to support members in moving towards the lives that they want for themselves. Your conversations, your coordination, your follow through make a real difference in whether someone sees employment as something possible for them and ensuring that they have the support they need to pursue it. And we truly, truly appreciate your partnership as we move into this new model together. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lydia.
Thank you, Jenny and Adam. Appreciate your guys' support with the training today. We are going to switch over to our question mode here, guys. So we have been collecting your questions in that Q&A, and we have about 42 open questions right now. We have a few answered as well. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to start with those questions that have the most thumbs up. So we have 2 top ones and then maybe 2 following. If anyone is feeling like they'd like to raise their hand and have any open conversation, you can also go ahead and hit that raise hand button, and then we will get to you in a queue as well. We'll go ahead and start with Emily's question here with the most upvotes. I have had members have poor experiences with DVR, unresponsiveness, etc., and they state that they would prefer to not work with DVR at all. If a member does not want to work with DVR, do they have that choice?
This is a great question. We actually got this a couple of times yesterday, even, and so definitely want to hit this one pretty clearly. First off, I just want to say that yes, in the history of DVR, there may not have been the best services and supports that were provided, but that DVR has evolved and continue to evolve. The folks that Jenny and I work with are incredibly committed to our population, our waiver population, and really have done incredible work around updating and really modernizing not only their services but also the philosophy. With all of that being said, we totally understand that there are going to be members who this is going to be a barrier for them, and we don't want this to be the barrier. So what we would ask in those situations is that you, as the case manager, reach out to Jenny and I so that we can have a quick discussion. We would not expect the member to have to be part of that. We don't want the member to have to come and tell their story all over again. So just some quick email back and forth between either Jenny or me and you as the case manager. What we would be able to do in those situations, if that we did find that, yeah, DVR really is going to be that major barrier, that we can offer you guys documentation to put in place of showing that, yes, we've talked about DVR, this is where we're at, but it's okay to move forward without the use of DVR. One thing as I would mention to members is that not only has DVR evolved, but the resources are much more specific. They're the ones who can cover things like training and education. They're the ones that people want to have self-employment. DVR is much more flexible and has different resources that can really support that. So by not going to DVR, members are going to be giving up a lot of resources that they could have access to. But if that's going to be a major barrier, please reach out to us and we can work through those issues.
Thanks, Adam. We'll take one more question from the Q&A and then we can switch to Alexandra. She's got her hand up. The next question is from Corey King. She asks why milestone payments are something that case managers are going to be authorizing. Can you speak to that a little bit, Adam?
Yeah, thanks, Corey, for that good question. And I apologize that when I was doing the presentation around milestones, that I forgot to mention that all of them were specifically the training with intent will have its own packet, its own tool that as the provider you're filling out. We would expect you guys to utilize the new tool that we're developing that you guys will see as part of the systems training to identify when those milestones may be available. And if it's during that service plan year for the member, that you're putting that on right away, putting that on the par with those date spans there. What we are asking you guys to do is not to get into the nitty gritty of any of this, but just to be the people who are capturing the information that are coming in and putting it into the members' files so that that can be later looked at, but also just making sure that that is included on the PAR. And then allowing the provider to go and bill for that and do the heavy lift around making sure that they have the right documentation, and that documentation is sent to you and included in the members' file in the CCM. We're not asking you to dig into the details around it and to make sure everything is perfect and copacetic. What we're just asking you to do is to be the conduit at which where those documents can be permanently saved and attributed to the member, as well as putting those services onto the PAR.
Thanks, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Alex, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you to unmute.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay. I'll start. I actually had one of my questions is on milestone payments. So since we're on that, I'll start with that, Adam. Um, will milestone payments only be available in relation to this model, or so like the people who currently have a job, they've been there for 2 years, it would only be the job that they started within the new model?
Yes,
Perfect.
that is a great question. This was a purely budgetary decision and this will help like with that first year budget from a state perspective. That's not to say that if somebody's been working for, let's say, 6 months, they would be eligible for the provider would be eligible when that member reaches a 12-month, or let's say a member has been working for 23 months at this, then the provider would be eligible for the 2-year milestone. But no, it is if somebody has been working for 3 years and they move into job coaching maintenance, unfortunately, from the milestone perspective, the provider would not be eligible for those.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
And then my other question related to the different phases, are the monthly timelines, like 90 days, etc., hard timelines? And how does this model support folks who need longer than 90 days to stabilize in employment?
So really, when we're thinking about this, one thing that I want to mention is that this was designed with DVR in mind. But if somebody is skipping through that, really the idea would be, and again, guys, we worked with multiple provider groups that had multiple provider agencies involved in them to actually build this out. So a lot of this has been vetted with the providers, and this is actually the way they wanted this to work. Is that yes, in that first one, we would expect that if somebody is skipping DVR, that there's going to be a lot of intensive job coaching there. But within that should also be focused on things like what are those job tasks? How do we support the member in learning those job tasks? But also identifying natural supports, identifying ADA accommodations, et cetera, et cetera. The secondary or that second phase that is much longer, we're still paying out at on that same kind of philosophy where we are paying out based on when the member works. And so those two, if the member needs 100% job coaching support all the time, those two phases should really be able to support that. And then we added in some of that flexibility. If there's a major change while somebody's in job coaching maintenance, they can move back into extended job coaching for a while to really get back to stabilization. And then finally, if after those first two phases, if that person still needs that extra support due to a disability or something like that, then that workplace assistance really does come down. The model was, again, I'm just going to state it, the model was really designed with the idea that somebody's going to be doing a lot of that stabilization through DVR. And when DVR comes off of order selection, that should start to happen again. But in the meantime, this is kind of where things lie, but there should still be enough flexibility. And with the idea that we're paying for every hour the member works, what we've been hearing from providers is that this is still going to work really well.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for that. I think I misremembered the fact that DBR also does some stabilization job coaching ahead of the HCBS waiver. So that clarified that for me. Thank you.
And honestly, we would have gotten deeper into what DVR offers and stuff if they weren't on that order selection right now. So when they come off, we'll probably be doing some more trainings and some more FAQs around that specifically.
Cool. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then my other questions were related to the implementation timeline. So with that being September 1st, Jenny, what training has been provided to provider agencies?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. I think as Adam alluded to, we have been working with the providers organizations almost 2 years, but solidly for a year. So for agencies who are connected with it's called the Association of People Supporting Employment First, or APSE. These providers are very aware of this. They've helped in creating some of the forms and making sure that it will work in best practice, which all of this is kind of built from. So those providers are pretty well versed. Does that capture every provider? No. So that's why we're trying to do some additional trainings for providers. I believe we've got one scheduled towards the end of July for them, and then in August as well. So they've got a little bit more, and depending on the provider group, might have more depth of knowledge of this as others. I think the other piece just to call out, and we decided to cut out the history because we knew there was so much we needed to cover. But this entire model was based on a pilot that we did for 5 years. So all of these things about the working through specifically the levels of job coaching, we had pilot providers doing that work. We had members doing it, and we saw a lot of success in that. And that's why we're really excited to bring it beyond that pilot to go statewide.
Great, thank you. Can you share the registration links to those provider trainings? I just worry that because the service plan meetings are happening right now, we're in another boat where the case manager is going to be the one that provides this information to the agency. So if there's something that we can share with them so that it doesn't turn into us being the ones to answer all of those questions and try and train them on it, that would be incredibly helpful.
Yes,
And then my
our to-do list for like this week. Like we want to get those announcements out. So appreciate the call out. And also just say that you have some, I guess, some say and choice in your implement, like as a case management agency. So this might be more of an agency thing more than a case manager individual kind of thing. But how do you want to manage those service plan meetings that you're having right now? How much do you want to have it versus we're giving you that flexibility to be like, you can just put it all in as the normal services for now. And the system will allow for that. There is not going to be a hard fast, we cross this September 1st timeline and everybody has to change who has a September 1st. Part of why we've got such a tight window with that implementation, the production date and the implementation date, is because we're actually trying to help so that service plans that you are doing now can just keep going as existing lines and be okay. And then also making it so that you're aware that like maybe it's advantageous. This provider's ready, the member's ready. We can just go ahead and enter that service plan after September 1st, and then we're good. Like we don't have to do a revision for them later. So trying to build in some flexibility for you all as case managers. That's why we wanted to have the training like now, because we know that some of you are already in the thick of those September 1st cert spans.
Yeah,
Just,
so that was,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, just to add to that really quickly, we do have some slide decks that are already on our supported employment website, but also we did quite a few presentations specifically to providers through Colorado APSE. And in the next slide, there's going to be links to those. So if you go to Colorado APSE and you click on resources and meetings. There's going to be a couple of times that we actually have slide decks on there and different things like that. They're again also on our supported employment website that you guys are more than welcome to point people towards, even as we're getting out, hey, we're going to have follow-up trainings coming up here pretty quick. Providers, you should know about this, but in the meantime, if you have a bunch of questions, here's a whole big slide deck that they can have. And then just also tell them to reach out to us. Jenny and I like talking about this stuff, so we're always willing to answer those questions and really kind of connect with those provider agencies. And our emails will be part of the last slide. So yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for adding that AppC website into the chat. And then my very last question, last piece of clarification. And I think, Jenny, you already answered it. So we have the flexibility because, right, we're working on those 9/1 start dates that if they're not ready, if there's not a plan of action to move forward with this new process for 9/1, they can include the line items as they are for now, with the expectation at their next quarterly in that cert year, that's when the change happens. So it will require a revision within 3 months. And then Jenny, I heard you say if they are ready, we can wait until the production system is ready to enter everything into the system. So case managers will not be held to that rule that the PAR has to be completed and created ahead of the start date because of the system readiness issue.
Yeah, that is what we're looking at, especially knowing that most of the work for 9/1 cert spans are happening between now. Like they're basically happening now in like the next 2 months. So you won't be able to add the new services until that production date at the end of August. So you could make a choice to be like, we're not going to enter this line until, or like, we're not going to enter it into the bridge until after 9/1. Kind of benefit of that is that it might save you a revision going forward. But we wanted to give that flexibility both for the member, but also mostly for you guys in terms of that you don't have to, because we know that rollouts have had that in the past, right? That this, hey, you have to hold all of your service plans and then enter them in a crazy manner in like 3 days. Like, we don't want to mess with that. So you can just enter those existing services and then it will continue on the PAR. And then yes, at future monitoring visits, we'll kind of get those folks caught up, essentially. Does that help?
Yes, that helps. Yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure we weren't going to hit that like 3 days from the start date scramble to get PARs. So perfect. Those are all my questions. Thanks.
Yeah, having lived through a fair number of HCPF rollouts, there's a lot of things we're like, can we not do that if we don't have to, please?
Thanks for all the questions. I do see that there is a Paul with his hand up. Paul, I'm going to ask if you could put your question into the Q&A. I know we have a couple more slides to go, so I think I'm just going to do one more question out of that Q&A, and then we'll wrap up with the rest of our slides. But we would appreciate for you guys to put any other questions you may have into this Q&A today. We will be taking all these questions and again creating a document that we can share out to you guys to get your questions answered after this training. So I think I just wanted to maybe hit on this question from Rachel, Adam, and Jenny that we have here. When I have sent DVR referrals before, I have never received confirmation of receipt. What do we need at this point? I think Rachel's just kind of asking again about that documentation of the DVR referral, and I think that's an important one to hit on too.
Absolutely, Rachel. As long as you have confirmation that the referral was sent, we're not requiring you guys to wait around for DVR to get back, especially knowing how different offices operate. Sometimes they do not they do not ever resend confirmation. They just start reaching out to the member. So just so you know, all you need is that documentation that referral was sent. And then from there, you can authorize job developments or whatever is appropriate.
If I can add to that, if part of the question is we don't have good communications with our DVR office and you would like help with that, please let us know. We're happy to help you guys in making connections. because I do know that sometimes it feels like those referrals go into the void and we're like, well, whatever happened to that? And we do want the person to be moving forward with DVR because DVR can offer, again, more than we can. Obviously, them having a waiting list right now is really challenging, but we still want to direct people to DVR. Essentially, the way they do the wait list is as they have resources available, they go to the next person on the list and kind of work their way down. So one way to think about it is getting your name on that list sooner will help you get connected to those resources sooner, but it also helps you as a case manager have something that you can say, and let's put that HCBS supported employment in the service plan.
So, sorry, this is Rachel. So when we send those referrals, when you say just having confirmation that you sent it, what are we uploading into CCM?
So Rachel, if you're sending an email, it would just be a copy of that email.
Okay. Okay. So I just like copy that onto a document and then upload it?
Yeah. Save it as a PDF and then just upload it to the CCM.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I am going to go through the rest of our slide deck real quick. There's just a few slides left for you. Again, feel free if you have your hand up or if you have additional questions, please put that in the Q&A. We will definitely look at those questions after training concludes. As we mentioned earlier, we have some resources for you guys. So when this training posts next week, you'll be able to get to these links. We're also going to have a friend be putting those in the chat for us here. The Support Employment Program website is probably the most important link here for you guys. It's where we're going to post the new tools and resources we talked about today, in addition to those other things that we have going on, like our training today. We'll probably post that in multiple places, so you'll be able to find it on the Support Employment website. You'll also be able to find it on the LTSS training website as well. And as Jenny and Adam have mentioned, they are very open to your questions and needs. And so they want to make sure that you guys know how to get a hold of them. These are both of their direct email addresses. So you're able to reach out to them with additional questions after the conclusion of the training. I think the only ask I would have for you guys is remembering that Jenny and Adam are not the system experts. So if you're sitting here and you're having some questions on the care and case management system process or the bridge process, feel free to keep those questions for that upcoming systems training. We'll be announcing that to you guys, and we'll see you guys in August again to look at CCM and bridge for that. And then lastly, I just always want to make sure we take a moment to thank you guys for your time today. We know that it's a big lift to come to trainings. We know that you'll probably have a lot of thoughts about support employment after today, and we appreciate you guys taking your time and your energy to work on implementing these new changes for your members. As we mentioned today, Adam, Jenny, and I all have very strong feelings that employment can be an amazing road to independence for members of all kinds. So we really appreciate you guys focusing on employment with your members and helping them learn about this new model as you do your service planning. So thank you again. We will look forward to seeing you guys in August. You will see our posted training next week, and we'll be working on an FAQ document to post for you guys as well to address all these thoughtful questions. We hope you have a great day and enjoy your weekend. Thank you. I will leave the meeting open for a couple of minutes just in case anyone wants to throw any new Q&As in here. Feel free to do that before you exit.